and then we'll kick us off.
Excellent.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Sidoti's May conference. My name is Michael Matheson. I'm a senior equity analyst here with the firm, and we're fortunate today to have BioLargo with us. Representing BioLargo is Dennis Calver, CEO. Just before I let Dennis get going, I want to emphasize that we're all about interaction with the people who have joined us today. So if you have questions, please type them into the Q&A box. Dennis will try and address as many as he can at the end. With that, I'll get out of the way. And Dennis, why don't you go ahead?
Hey, Michael, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We've got a lot to share. We've been on this journey now since the spring of 2007. We've been innovating across multiple industries, multiple products, really focused on just transformative technology. We make life better. It's a mission-driven company, and we have an innovation engine. We're going to remind everyone we do have risk factors to consider. Go to the K, most recent K, in fact. It's pages of risk factors. We're in a very high-risk business. And the challenge is always overcoming risk, managing for and overcoming risk, which we do quite well. But it is a daunting challenge to say we're going to transform markets. The good news is that we've been planting seeds for quite a long time. We're seeing the fruit bear out. And so we're going to talk about some of that fruit and also some of the things that we think are coming. So who are we, right? What do we do? Innovation, innovators in science, focus, and entrepreneurs focus on human health and sustainable innovation for some of the big problems that face our planet and our people, driven by this make life better theme. Everything we have has a big cause behind it. Best in class technology. If it's not best in class, we probably won't invest. We've weeded some of the assets out. We've narrowed the focus on achievable targets that we believe we can do with our skill set and our talent and our technology. Focus on problems without a solution. Easy to say, hard to do. No good solution. And then we conserve capital really well. We're going to talk about that. How do we do that? We focus on the things that are core competency: engineering, science, partnership, joint venture, licensing deals, distribution arrangement, to see these assets go out and transform a market, primarily leveraging the balance sheet and the distribution channels of our partners. Easy to say, very hard to do, but pretty awesome when it works. So in our company, at the core office, of course, we're focused on this innovation engine with a lot of science and engineering. R&D center up in Canada, the engineers in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Don't forget the world-class people. They've had 30-year careers, a group of seniors. We've got about 27 engineers now on staff. It has grown. The total company has a little over 50 people now. And so with that kind of critical mass, we bring great science and engineering that can surround some of these challenges in a multidisciplined, multi-approach way to develop best of class strategies. Okay. There's 4 commercial units. O&M is focused on odor and VOC. That's air quality, VOC control. Clear medical, cutting edge in infection control and advanced wound care, wounds that have a hard time healing, featuring some antimicrobial products. 14-year development cycle, finally going to market in a big way. We're really excited about it. The equipment group is focused on water, but with a really strong emphasis in PFAS, PFAS. That's forever chemicals. Again, disruptive tech. Don't forget that. The battery tech, it's probably the youngest, probably the biggest. And we've made some significant strides in the battery tech here of late and got a few more things coming to bear pretty quick. Okay, what's the point of this slide? Some of the trouble people have with our company is some of this is hard to see, especially when things happen off balance sheet through partnerships. And you wait for partners to get ready and wait for them to launch and do all the things they commit to doing. But there's a cornerstone of why this works for us. We focus on our core competency, science and engineering, and disruptive technologies that have a chance to transform a market. So these little bullets up at the upper left are really the key to the business, to understanding us. Unmatched technical claims. I want to say it again. Unmatched technical claims. If they're not shaping up with the feature group to be number one, we're not going to do it. We really only want to do number one. And so capital conserving strategy, that's that leverage opportunity. Highly qualified people, we covered that. And then driven for impact. That keeps you going when the chips are down. It's important work, has a chance to transform markets and make a difference in the lives of people. Each of these has an enterprise value target, right? This is the kind of vision that we put on these. We believe Clyra will create an exit for $1 billion. I mean, and we can defend it. And the equipment group, $1 billion plus, slower, harder, lower margin. We've got a great technology finding its way to market. And then the battery is the sort of the big gorilla. And of course, the odor and VOC control, as that continues to develop, we think there's a great exit for that as well. Last year was a great year. We came in at just under 18 million. Q1 was a little dip, primarily because of the sales at Poof, which is a product we'll talk about. Net shareholder equity is still strong. Don't have toxic debt, sitting in a decent cash position. Really don't have a strong need other than to push sales through, which we're talking about. And so we're pretty optimistic about some of the assets finding their way. So let's take a minute, and we're going to come back to Q&A in a minute. We've done a series of announcements here for Clyra, and the basic tone of all these announcements goes like this. We're ready to be in the selling product business, not the R&D business. We're exiting an R&D phase, heading into large-scale manufacturing, distribution, and sales. We've got a timeline. We can talk some details, but somewhere between the next 3 and 9 months, we're going to see a series of products come to market. And they're pretty substantial. And I just want to remind everybody, they're substantial not only technically, but financially. They're technically important because they represent a transformation in the way infection control is managed in a surgical suite, and they have a transformative opportunity in the way wounds, in particular chronic, sensitive, fragile skin wounds, right? Because we feature potent antimicrobial with no local sensitivity and no systemic toxicity. And when you put all the claims together, including the activity, we've shown efficacy and biofilm efficacy and sustained release, it's got a feature group that easily positions it as number one as a disruptor and transformer in the marketplace. We've really tested everyone's patience. Oh my goodness, this has taken a long time. This is 14 years of work and about $20 million invested. And again, the thesis is capital conservation, right? So as we go through the R&D, we position these claims, we secure 510(k) clearance under the FDA, which is all done. We surround it with key opinion leaders. We've got a couple of just incredible people involved. When you look at the board, when you look at the chief medical officer on staff, these are just the most accomplished people in the field now, leading the charge to position these for adoption in the market. And so it's just on the cusp of launching. It's huge. And I think financially, everyone's going to be quite pleased, and we're anxious to push these last few details to get to that sales opportunity. On the odor control, we've got industrial and Poof. Poof has just been killing it. Had a great year last year. Their sales were down this quarter, and everybody wants to know why. And I always say they've just done such a stellar job of growing over time. So as they resort and shuffle for the next push, we're praying they can continue to keep pushing that product to market, and we're very optimistic about it. Because the product's that good. These are great marketeers, and so we're hoping to see sales continue. We don't have a lot of visibility to the why and the how, so it leaves us very difficult on the forecasting because it's their business. We're a supply chain partner and a licensing partner, but it's been great, and we expect it to continue in some way to continue to find market. 8 different SKUs. All of these products are based on our technology. And remember the business deal, which we'll talk about in 2 seconds. Huge retail accomplishments. And so again, showing that they're capable of penetrating such a deep retail presence. And last count, we were in about 40,000 retail outlets. And so it's quite a success to get to that mark. And again, we're hoping it will just continue the way it's supposed to. On the business deal, of course, we control the supply chain. We manufacture cost plus, make a little money, make a little royalty, and then we bargain for brand equity. Why is that important? Well, just remember, that's our model, right? If we can't get a piece of the equity that's created in the brand that's leveraging our technology, we probably wouldn't do it. It's critical. And so in this case, as that brand establishes national recognition and value in its own right, we're an equity partner there. But that's not realized until it exits. Okay, but that doesn't mean it's not real. It just means you got to think about it before you can see it. And that's one of the challenges in our business, is to help people understand that we're building equity value that has long-term ramifications. We're going to talk about the salinity battery tech, this next one, because it's so big and we've got some significant advancements here of late. Salinity, that's the cell on the right there. That's a big cell, cylinder cell. It's a salt battery, right? And it runs hot. It runs at about 220 C, so it's a molten. Now, when you say salt battery and you say hot, a lot of the competition runs at about 800 C, so it's not that hot. 200 C is pretty good, but it's a different design than lithium. Lithium wants to be cold, Keep it cool. Don't let it get hot. If it gets hot, it's dangerous. Okay, we're the opposite. Keep it hot. It's really good. Insulate it to keep the heat in. We've done a lot of work. Now, remember, we bought this technology. When we bought the technology, we knew that we had to revalidate the claim set because we didn't make those claims. And we presented that information to the market, said these are the claims we believe are true, but we had to redo them. And we thought that'd take about a year, and about $1 million was our budget. Well, it took 2.4 million in 2 years, a little over 2 years. And that's sort of indicative of the nature of the business. But we've done it. We've now at the point where we can say these technical claims are true, and the technical breakthrough that this salinity battery represents is real. And now it's time to begin the commercial march through third-party validation and business deal making, which is what we're doing. This article was published. I don't need to summarize it, except other than to say the Economist says this is the next $1 trillion business. We believe that to be true. The thematic claim is really simple. The demand for this design, for this solution, there's a gap in the market. Long duration energy storage, grid scale. Okay, there's a gap in the market. It's the fastest growing sector in the energy industry, and we have a piece that we can carve out for us, and we believe we have a plan to take a major position in the marketplace. I'm going to describe that for you. Lithium has a bunch of issues. I just want to make it real simple. Fire is one of them, of course. Everybody knows there's a fire issue to be careful about because they create what's called a runaway fire. The real issue is global supply risk. That's the issue actually that needs the attention. The fires, got it. That's not cool, right? You don't want the battery on the side of your house to catch fire, and in extreme situations they can. All right, but what you really need is a supply chain to meet the insatiable demand that's being demanded by big data. AI and big data has a consumption appetite that no supplier can meet. No supplier can meet it. It is insatiable. Okay. What if you had a better battery? That's our thesis. A better battery, safer, sustainable, durable, more efficient, a battery that can actually operate in a grid scale storage environment with exceptional claims. These are the claims that are part of the early validation work that we're doing just now. We'll be publishing soon. But the punchline is really simple. It's an extraordinary high energy density and voltage, 2.9 times that of lithium. That's sort of like the power with the weight punch, mass punch. It's a measure of the energy that you can deliver. It also is highly efficient. So a lot of these batteries that have ion exchange have what's called internal degradation. We have none of that. There's no perceivable degradation internally, which means that the battery can last 20 years. It's a 20-year battery, and it uses recyclable components with no global supply chain risk and no geopolitical risk of mining and all the other things that go with that. So the trick in all that is to scale manufacturing. That's really where we're at this next stage. These put-ups on the left are great examples of competitors' products, and we're not at that stage yet. We're at the cell level. Cells go into racks, racks go into packs, packs make modules. That's how it works. The cell design is the art of delivering the energy in a consistent design that allows you to replicate manufacturing, and that's what we're doing. You can make any pack you want. You got to perfect the cell technology and make sure that you can scale manufacturing. That's what we're doing. So where are we at in the process? Well, right here, underway now, complete third-party validation. We're talking about the numbers because I want to give people the order of magnitude of what we're talking about. We believe we can command a valuation now somewhere in the $43 to $150 million valuation. Okay. When you look at the business model of how this scales and the way we're scaling, which is very unique, and that is we made a decision not to sell batteries, but sell battery factories. Franchise battery factories. Why? Because we can build hundreds. Yeah, hundreds. And you say, really? Yeah, that's right. Now you do need one. You need to get through the validation. You got to do this heavy lifting on the proof of claim. But we built a model on 10 factories at $140 million a pop. $140 million CapEx. Takes about 2.5 years to build a factory. And once those go operational under a franchise model, our partners put up the money. We get paid to build a factory. We participate in 19% carried interest and a 6% royalty. It's a good model. With that model on 10 factories, we command a net present value around the 1.5 billion range. On maturity, about 2.5 billion. The rhetorical question, I say it rhetorically because there's a lot of things to still unfold. But if we can build 10, why can't we build 100? The answer is we can. And the market's big enough with this insatiable demand, and it starts with a better battery that scales to manufacturing, and that's what we're doing. And then I think this is final, PFAS, and I want to spend just a few minutes. The PFAS is a big component in our business. Remember, in each of these, the capital conserving strategy, right? Don't sell batteries, sell battery factories. It's capital conserving. Do a medical product so that we do all the heavy lifting, technically find the great partner, let it go. Contract manufacturer, don't build manufacturing, buy manufacturing, rent it. You can pay on a per click. Okay. Similar here. The PFAS is all about the technology. It's such a good technology. We've got our first adoption. That installation is scheduled in New Jersey in August, September. Say a prayer with no more delay. It's been delayed almost a year because of weather and because of permitting, things that we don't control. We've had the unit ready to install. It's beautiful. PFAS is forever chemicals, right? Forever chemicals. When you look at the impact of PFAS, now there's two markets. One is the materials themselves. That's the supply chain of the chemistry that makes non-stick coatings. That's what we're talking about. The other is the cleanup. 50 years of contamination, 50 years of cleanup. Don't miss it. It's a massive market. Litigation is still going on all over the world. It's a hot topic with the EPA. Pronouncements are coming out, not weekly, but on a steady basis, on a monthly basis. And so we're in it to win it. And we believe our component is positioned so well so that we can scale the supply chain through contract manufacturing as we scale the distribution channel through partnerships with companies around the globe, actually. Mostly US, though, we'll say. There's the unit. Look at the picture on the left. This is the unit that's going into Lake Stockholm. And what you see is each one of those is a module. And remember the technology, you push it through an electric field, electrostatic field, migrate the PFAS to one side, collect it across a membrane in front of an electrode. And then the membranes last about a year. So you have a razor blades model. And this is extraordinarily cost efficient as compared. Notice the little bottom picture at the bottom. We make a little pailful versus a truck full of waste. 140,000. 140,000. I got an image. There it is. How about a beaker of contamination versus a truckload of carbon? It's a big deal. It's a big deal. So the challenge is not, does it work? The challenge is convincing the market it works. It's all about credibility, and it takes time. Now we're working with the EPA, which is awesome. The federal branch as well as the local branch in New Jersey. We've done about 15 something trials. What we're building is a tool that can be used by the entire industry. We'll sell the toolkit to people all over the industry, right? We don't have to do all the vertical integration. We can outsource manufacturing. We can take orders. What we have to do is seed it in the market. In order to get it seeded in the market, we went vertical. Once we get it seeded, we don't have to be vertical. We can partner. So it's a heavy lift to get it seeded. That's the challenge. But once it goes, then it can go big. And we think it also becomes a wonderful acquisition target for some of our partners. So this one is going to win. We're convinced. Most recently, I was also invited to join an environmental trade, technology trade advisory committee to the Secretary of Commerce for the United States Federal Office. It's awesome. It's great for our company. It's great for the impact that we can have on a contaminant of the decade for the United States of America and the globe. Recent case studies in leachate are remarkable. Leachate is another source of water that has PFAS in it, often called a passive receiver. There's so much technology going on there, but a passive receiver is someone who didn't create the problem, but they collect it. Well, that's a landfill. They didn't make the PFAS. They just happen to have all this stuff with PFAS and it come to the landfill. So that passive receiver is an evolving field in the regulatory scheme, and we win there too. And again, very unusual. Our technology has the ability to serve multiple markets in the field. We don't need to focus on one. We need to focus on the perfection of the art of the electrostatic concentration and destruction. And we have two bundles there, the collection and the destruction. Don't miss that too, offering a complete solution to the marketplace. Sold through partners. We have one environmental engineering firm that has specified our solution in 26 projects. 26 projects. It's about 45 million worth of business, just so you get perspective. We're not going to get them all. It's a very competitive field, and we're really relegated to the early adopter market. So in the scheme of technology innovation, right, you have to get adoption and build credibility as you go. And that's what we're doing. And we're doing quite well at it, actually. we've always said we think we're the only commercial installation of an alternative to carbon or ion exchange technologies in the market that's actually had a commercial sale. Here's the thing. It's long and slow and it's not massive margin. But once you get through that adoption cycle, it's a business that'll run for 50 years. This is going to go on and on and on, and it'll outlive me. And again, great technical innovation. We did this case study work. We published it recently. We've got copies. It's published in a number of different areas. And the punchline to the story is we can save roughly 80% in recurring costs for an operator. 80%. 80%. Don't miss it. It's like an 80% discount. Really? Yeah, for real. Okay, so what happens is it's now convincing people that's real. That's the challenge. You have to convince them it's real. We get it. And so that's a methodical process. So this work we're doing with the EPA is really critical. And it's slow, it's not fast, but it is at the highest mark. And our role in that trade advisory committee, this is one of the highlights of that, which is this combination of policy and incentive. Policy, which is regulatory framework, incentive, which is tools and resources to help innovators like us find their way through the jungle to success. It's extraordinarily difficult. It's unpredictable in timing. But when you do it, you take a market. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about taking markets, okay? And it's worthy. All of these are worthy of a career. I believe that we've done incredibly well with relatively small amounts of capital and position ourselves for a global impact in multiple arenas. I'm going to leave it on this slide because I think it really drives it home. This one right here. The underlying value is these assets we believe will find commercial adoption. Some of them are hard, some of them are easier. They all will work. They're all going to find some adoption. And we've weeded this down to the ones that we believe represent the pathway to success and significance in a meaningful way. And again, we've been doing it a long time. So we're now able to say to investors, you're coming in at a time when the hardest work is done. About technical validation, the seeding in the market. There's more work to do though. Don't miss it, especially in the battery tech. There's a lot of work to do. But we've achieved some critical mass and some financial critical mass that allows us to do things other companies simply can't do. So I'm going to quit. I know that's a big mouthful. And let me turn it over to Q&A and see what we got.
Very good, Dennis. Very informative. Such a broad portfolio of interesting things. Why don't we start with the Clyra product, though,
Sure.
since that one's kind of near to being released. You'll be working through the distributors. Do you have a sense of how big the marketing budget will be for Clyra?
Well, that's a good question. That's a really good question. So the answer is no. They're all a little different, right? So some of the smaller distributors who are technically highly trained are focused on bringing us into distribution channels where the need is obvious. And that's a technical selling proposition. And so we'll leverage essentially the tools of our distributors for their footprint in the marketplace as a disruptive tech that is now introduced through a clinical setting. In the medical field, especially in med device products, the selling is really done at conferences and done by technical experts who lead the way with writing papers and have clinical experience. So we've already made a significant commitment to that, and that will continue through trade events and through technical meetings. That's where the selling actually occurs. Physician to physician, physicians who want best of class of care, patient outcomes is the key. They then take it back to their communities and help distribute it with the knowledge that better patient outcomes are possible. What I can say is some of the competitors are coming under regulatory pressure because of their toxicity, and the void in the market is becoming increasingly clear. And so that's going to bode well for us. That's the small ones. On the big ones, you're talking about big gorilla partners, people that already own the market. And so in that case, often we can come alongside with an existing distribution channel and have another tool in the toolkit of the bag that the reps are carrying into the field. And so it's feet on the street with massive presence to recognize leaders that actually makes it work. And so that's the strategy.
Okay, interesting. Well, let's turn to some of the other products in the portfolio. When we think about the battery factories, where I understand you have, several people kind of ready to go. Of course, I know you can't release names, but maybe for the benefit of the people listening in, can you talk about when you expect groundbreaking for the new factories?
Yeah, so there's a lot of work to do. So there's a couple of phases. The first phase is validate the technology, the cell design. That's what we're doing now. The next is to then begin working on the scale up of the manufacturing technique itself. So we have the engineers to do that. We're already working on that. So that's the next phase, and that's essentially R&D, but it will continue to advance us to the point of saying we're going to specify processes that go into the manufacturing themselves. At the same time, we're selling the opportunity for a partner to become a franchisee. Okay, so the beauty in the business model is if we can convince the franchisee to adopt our technology and partner with us, then when we start, a portion of the CapEx is paid to us in the form of services and equipment, generating revenue along the way. So when we start, we make money, as opposed to most other battery companies that start after they spent the CapEx and they hope they can sell them. Different game. Very different strategy, much better, I would say, especially when you have a better battery that has a chance to really transform a market. Okay, so groundbreaking. It's start to finish on a signed deal is about 2.5 years for a factory, 2.5 years to go live and produce batteries to scale. Okay, groundbreaking then can happen probably within the next first 6 to 9 months of funding. So we're now at the stage of securing MOUs and working with our partners who then bring the primary financing to build the factories to the table. We can assist, of course, we're intimate with them, but it is their capital source that makes it work because the franchisee wants to be in the battery business. So the rhetorical question is, who wants to be in the battery business? Well, it turns out there's a lot of people. Okay. So to just name a few, big data would be number one. People that are in the big data business, they need lots of energy storage. If you're in the data center business, you need lots of storage. If you're in the renewable energy business, you got to have it. Or if you're in the grid scale deployment of energy, you got to have it. There's also resiliency, hospitals, military installations. They need storage to be resilient so that when the grid does go down, they're not out of business. Okay. Huge markets, insatiable. I like to tell the story of EOSE, that's a competitor. It's a nice comp. It took them a long time, over 10 years to get to market. They started from scratch. Okay. They went vertical. They've had massive inflow of capital. They're well over $1 billion market cap now. And what they have done is commercialize a zinc bromide battery. It's a good battery. It does what it's supposed to do. Okay, so they're doing great. Still operational, I'm sure. A lot to deal with as they scale their business. But the markets recognize value because they went vertical and now they're in a commercial launching. Here's the key stat. They report about 13 billion in backlog. Do you hear that? 13 billion in backlog. Okay. So what's the story? It's insatiable demand. You can sell the batteries before you make them. That's what we're doing. We're selling the batteries before we make them. We're selling franchises that can sell the batteries because you got to scale, right? And so there's like a hybrid we're working on. It's part licensing like a Broadcom, it's part vertical integration like Tesla, right? And it's part brand like McDonald's. I mean, you think about it, you go, really? It's like, yeah, we've put the pieces together to allow us to do something that most companies can't even dream of doing. And so we're at the stage now where there's a lot of interest. There's MOUs that have put together, subject to financing, of course. And so now I got to do the battery validation. I got to come back to the market and say, okay, we got a validated tech. We're ready to start building factories. Who wants to go? And so that's next. And so it's hard to predict the timing of the first win, but it sure feels like it's close. And now we just got to get them into go mode and shore up the financing and make sure they're ready to execute. So still risky, but less risky than it's ever been before. And the prize is so significant. And we certainly have the battery tech, the model, and the talent and the mission, right? That's our pitch to do something pretty special in a global market. So so we're hoping to get some deals under contract where the financing's secure and we can say, all right, first factory, here's the break ground target. And hopefully we can do that this year. That'd be our target. Give everyone the expectation, right?
We're almost out of time, but let me slide in one more question. Can you talk about POOF and potential expansions of distribution or expanding the product line?
I don't really have much to say there. You know, what happens is we're in the innovation side of the business. We have a number of product designs. So there's an extension, brand extension capability, but really those are decisions that are made by our partner. And so we're going to just have to wait and see how it goes.
Okay, well, great. Informative as always, Dennis. Thank you very much. I see we didn't get to all of the questions. So folks, if we didn't answer yours, I'm sorry for that. Please contact your Sidoti representative. We'll in turn follow up with BioLargo and get you some answers. Well, thanks
Absolutely.
again, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you, everyone.